Welcome to Coach Soul, the podcast where we explore therapeutic ways to the best versions of ourselves. I'm your host, Steve Hudgins. I'm a licensed professional counselor dedicated to helping you navigate life's challenges. In each uplifting episode, we'll discuss mental health, relationships, self-care, emotional well-being, and personal growth. Join me and with my co-host, Kenya Evelyn, a therapeutic life coach, where sometimes we'll even welcome special guests to our show that share their experience and expertise. So let's embark on this transformative path together and discover a healthier and happier you. All right, it's another day, and it's a beautiful day, as Mr. Rogers say in the neighborhood. Welcome to Coach Soul. And Kenya, you know, we're winding down. We've got less than 80 something days, and Christmas hits, and the end of the year, and we begin a new year. It just seems like yesterday you and I started.
I'm just so excited because I can be like, oh my gosh, this year flew, or wow, so many days, so many gifts, right. So many ideas, so many connections, so many opportunities. Look at us, all rebranded, putting our voice out there. I mean, we went through a lot this year in a great way.
We did.
And some crunchy times, shall we?
Yes, there's some crunchy, but there's also some smooth sailing, and that's what makes life interesting if you allow it. And I like how you presented that, because we can say, oh my gosh, the time flew by, and avoid the discomfort that we had, or take accountability and say, you know what, we had it all. But we got through it and we made it. And so to me, accountability is important for us to be able to empower ourselves in such a way that we become leaders.
Well, 100%. Yes. It is the, if I see you, which I do, and I see every human, which I do, as their own leader, including the children, especially the children.
Right.
Then in me having the vision of your leadership, it makes us a vision of creating what we want to see in the world, if I choose to see it that way. Now, if I look at a child, whatever age it is, 5 or under, as, oh, they don't know anything. They don't, because they might not know, but they're copying who? Right? So yes, we're all leaders. Can you make someone do something? Okay, let me be specific. I was in class a few days ago. I tutor 5-year-olds, 4 and 5-year-olds in our homeschool tutorial. And I said, if you can hear me, clap 1. If you can hear me, clap 2. All this thing to call attention to the class. And this kid, you just know that he's like the pepper of the class, right? Just like me. Like, I remember, as a matter of fact, I'm still the pepper. And he's like, hey, clapping his own time. I look at him and I said, can I make you listen? He stopped. I said, can I actually make you listen? He said, no. It's like, well, so who's the leader? I am. He's 5. He's 5, Steve. He's 5. Of course, I am leading the class, but can I make you? And I think if we can remember that yes, we're better together, or to be honest, worst together, right?
True.
Depend on who are your closest 5. We're going to talk a lot about this podcast about how can we intentionally not just finish the year well, but listen to this podcast and the next 30 minutes just feel like so full of the awareness that I am the leader. I get to be accountable to me. Yes, God is guiding me. Yes, God is also, there's my part, your part, and God's part. And who are we creating together in our leadership, in our mirror of each other really matters. It is actually what we're seeing.
It is. And to me, true empowerment it begins the moment we cease to shield ourselves, with excuses, and instead take full accountability for our choices. Because in the mirror of our self-reflection, we find not just our flaws, but our potential. By embracing responsibility,
there we go.
We unlock the door to personal growth and transformation.
100%. Dear listeners, did you just hear what he said? You see, leadership and responsibility and accountability, they better be cousins or triplets. Right? And I remember being a child, and feel free to raise your hand, but not if you're driving. I remember being a child and not liking the word responsibility. Somehow we had an ugly taste in my mouth. I didn't want to be responsible for the dishes. I certainly didn't want to be responsible for really anything. I just want to have fun. So what if responsibility is the ultimate fun?
How do you make responsibility fun, Kenya? I mean, that's unheard of when you think about it that way. How is responsibility fun?
But it's the only way that people like me, I know that there's many people that will be like you.
Okay.
That you're a natural, responsible person. You're a military guy. You're structured. You get into places on time. On time for you is 15 minutes early, or else you're late, and all the things, right? But for people like me, if you're not having fun, life is too square. And it just, the words that it feels heavy, like energetically heavy. It feels like, I just want to, can I just run away? Can I just sing my life away? And at 16 it might worked. At 6 definitely worked, but at 46 does not work. So what I learned to see responsibility as, that means that the ability to respond is on me. Let me break it down, that word for you. Responsibility. The ability to respond is on me. And if I delegate my responsibility to you, I'm now no longer autonomous. I am now no longer in my leadership to put me where I want to see. Unless I have the ability, unless I am the ability to respond, and I say, okay, it is a grateful day. It is for me. I am grateful, even though it is gray outside. Yes, I gave the kids the chores to do that. It's their responsibility, but it is my responsibility because I am the mama. This is my house. This is my children. So I unplug the Wi-Fi and they do it now, or I do it for them and give them a consequence. But what I cannot do is go another 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days without dishes. And what about in relationship? I didn't do it. He did it.
I hear that all the time, and when you think about it, responsibility is the bridge to accountability.
Exactly.
Because without owning our actions, we cannot truly hold ourselves answerable for our outcomes. And so when I think about responsibility, my dad was a great example of accountability, responsibility with a sense of urgency. I know we talked off mic about that, and urgency, I think, urgency fits that.
Yes.
Yes. I just remember, I'm the type of person that my card tags come in the mail. I'm at the tag agency the next day to get it done.
Yep.
There was a time that I backed into, a person's mailbox. It was an accident. Didn't see it. Didn't realize it. I took my 10-year-old son with me. And I said, he says, where we're going? I said, well, we're going down to Lowe's, the home improvement. We're going to pick up some supplies because I broke something and I told him I'm going to repair it. Not next week, not next month, the very next day. When I got home, I bought the supplies that evening, took them with me. We went to that person's house and I replaced the mailbox better than what it was. And I taught my son, this is accountability. This is a sense of urgency, responsibility.
Yes. Correct.
Because this is, we hurt another person's property. We need to take accountability.
100%.
And when we take accountability, the world becomes a better place.
100%. What we set off, Mike, and I really want to bring this to our listeners, is let's spread it out, those words and the frequency, the vibration that it is. So if you take responsibility as something great and light, and is actually the only thing that creates is your ability to respond. React or respond. Respond, not react. React is the opposite of responsibilities. It's the ultimate avoidance. It's like, that was not me. Well, it is you. It's all you. And it's great news that is you. The bridge here to responsibility and the rainbow of joy and happiness and fun is when I embody the urgency. If it's in my realm of ability, which it is, do it right away. Embody right away. Dear listeners, if you would come to my house, you would feel like, whoo, wow, Coach Kenya, you have a long way to go. You know what? I'm in the journey, y'all. I'm in the journey. I'm Latino. And I never use the Latino as excuse. I never use the dyslexia as excuse. I never use the HDD as excuse. And they come to visit all the time. I told Steve off mic, for years, I use the excuse, no longer. But in Brazil, people are always late. Well, now that I know that I have dyslexia, everything makes sense, because it takes so many readings to actually make sense one page for me. It takes me reading 3 times the same thing. And you know what? When I dismiss what I can't and I embody what I can, my ability to respond, I became a best-selling author 5 times. It's unheard of. What do you want? Do you want to defend your weaknesses? Or do you want to acknowledge, yes, it is true, this is my journey, those are my weaknesses, and I'm strengthening what I'm really great at. And you know what I'm really great at? And I dare that you are really great at too, dear listeners. I'm really great at life. I'm really great at smiling. I'm really great at seeing what's right. I'm really great at seeing my power. I'm the first one to see my shortcomings. I deal with that all the time. The voices in my head about my shortcomings, what I didn't do, what has broken in the house. I fix one thing, the kids break 2, and it's like, how am I,
Let's talk about that for a second,
yes.
Kenya, because I think it's important, because when we think about responsibility, that long word carries a heaviness if we think about it in such a way.
If you choose to
think about it, right? And then you think about accountability. Well, who wants to be held accountable? But what you just shared here for a second of taking responsibility or ownership of your shortcomings, right?
Yes.
When we think about that, a lot of people want to shy away from that, the fear of hurt and things of people pointing out those shortcomings.
100%.
So
as humans, we would do everything to avoid people seeing our shadows.
Okay.
100%. As humans, this is why I bring to the podcast my shadows. And this is why you do it too, because in the moment that I bring it to here is no longer a shadow. I shed light. I'm not pretending. I never talk about something I study. I talk about things that I live. I'm sharing right now in this podcast, the human Kenya, that I am always upgrading. I'm always reframing. When I notice that, when I say responsibility. There's a place in my back that tights up. And that's where trauma used to live. And there's a resonance out there of, if you don't do this, you're going to get punished. And I was like, I don't want to be punished. And it still lives in the body. When I notice, I get to send light to that place. And my ability to respond is to say, I am a leader of me and my children and all the people that look up to me as a guide, as a mentor, as a light. Not because I'm somebody important, but I'm somebody just like you, that I'm in the journey and I'm in the bridge to reframe what doesn't work to what works.
Right.
And let me tell you, dear listeners, urgency is my magic word of the moment. Feel free to borrow or to change it to your own. Immediacy is a word that Steve likes using it. Immediacy. When you see something, take action. I cannot tell you the level of self-esteem that will just flare out of your body like a sunlight. I did it. I did the thing I didn't want to do because I thought it was hard. I own it. I told my husband, you know what? It wasn't you. It was me all along. Whatever heaviness that was there was no more. Because in the moment that I say it was me, I was making it bigger than it was. Now I have space to create. And it's all about the space in between to create. It's not, it's like when you hold on to the thing as it's you, it wasn't me. There's no space in your body, in your field to shine the light to create. Your oneness with God. You know, Steve and I talk a lot about God, but your oneness with God, my oneness with God, is my ability to create, to imagine. You created in my image. What is this image?
You know, Kenya, when you think about what you're sharing here, oftentimes our past gets in the way of ourselves. It just does. But sometimes that's our complacency because that's all we know to do. And so it's easy to kind of shriek, hide, and not want to take accountability because we take it as hurt. But what if we take this hurt as a different viewpoint of how to rise above and do better? It goes back into that analogy that we did on a podcast a while back with the egg, the carrot, and the coffee bean.
Sure.
The hot water can affect the egg to make it hard, make the carrot soft, but the coffee bean changed the water. And to me, that's the accountability. It's about knowing that we can make a change, a difference. Is it going to be tough? Well, sure. Every year, like the New Year's coming up, the people make resolutions. Well, I want to lose weight this year. I want to be 100 pounds lighter. Oh, okay, wait a minute. Let's set a reasonable goal of losing weight, but hold yourself accountable to that. Is it going to be tough because you're starting to walk 10 miles? Well, yeah. So you start off small, walk a half a mile, walk a mile, increase it by 5 minutes a day. And you're going to realize, oh my gosh, this is not as tough as I thought it was going to be. So that's a different podcast. We could talk about perception
100%.
Versus perspective.
Yeah, write that down. That would be great because I have some thoughts on that too. What I love about what you just share is, in my own words, dear listeners, no one is coming to rescue you. So your ability to respond is what will make or break in your level of joy while you are here in this world. And I will reframe when I say no one is coming to rescue you. If you are in a tough spot, you get to rescue yourself by raising your hand. That's how you rescue yourself and say, hey, I need help. Hey, I can't think straight. Hey, I'm drugging myself with too much ice cream or too much caffeine or too much beer or too much whatever. to numb. So your ability to respond gets to be, I need help. Instead of, I got this. No, I got this. Whoever taught you that you got this, that you need no help, is probably living a very lonely life, because we're better together. And I don't care if you're men or women. I do believe that men have a harder time with that one. To be vulnerable and to be, to have too many responsibilities. Somehow it's more acceptable to have all those responsibilities. And for the women, what is acceptable is to jug all of it. To work inside, to work outside, to work with the kids, and have all these things. And it's perfectly acceptable to be a hot mess. And I'm putting an end to that cycle. In Jesus' name, amen. Because if you see yourself as a hot mess, are you really seeing yourself in a way that you really love being seen? Wow. And the way you see yourself is the way other people see you. So I say, you're gorgeous. You're strong. You're beautiful. You're brave. You're incredible. You're talented. You're a leader.
You know, it's about, when you think about responsibility and accountability and these things we have to look at, where is the grace for yourself? You know, it's funny because when I went on vacation, there's two monks. One sitting on the brick wall facing the gorgeous view of this big, huge valley. The other monk is standing back, taking a shot behind him what he's viewing. And I put this on Facebook. I said, embrace the essence of who you are, for the wisest perspective lies not in the eyes of others, but in the heart that beats within you. When you see yourself with kindness and acceptance, the world's opinions fade into the background, allowing your true light to shine unapologetically. Viewing oneself positively is essential for mental well-health, being, resilience, and authenticity, because it helps reduce anxiety. And so it's about being vulnerable. I had lunch yesterday with Brock. Brock was on our podcast because he became vulnerable. I asked, how is the group that he's has? And he says it's growing exponentially.
Wow.
And that they're breaking off in groups in different rooms of 5. And men are starting to connect and being vulnerable. And that's what our society is about. It's not a sign of weakness. Weakness is not being vulnerable. Not recognizing, hey, I don't want to talk. A strength is about talking. It is about coming together. And so when you empower yourself, how much more can you empower others around you? Mm-hmm. And as Ecclesiastes say, where there's 3 cords that cannot, when they're bound together, they cannot be broken.
Can't be broken.
They cannot be broken.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Kenya, you and I, and God in our podcast, that's a bond. It's a strand that cannot be broken. But
I go one step deeper.
Go ahead.
Right. Every listener that come here brings the energy of a mastermind, a consciousness. So if you are a listener that keeps coming back, that this deeply resonate with you, what you are creating here is that you're tapping to our consciousness, you and I and God and all the things that we put into this container called Coached Soul, and you're allowing yourself to receive. And I feel the need to say that because you are receiving it already. So to feel like you're not receiving is to have a little pat and saying, oh, I'm not receiving. I'm so lonely. It's to run the old pattern.
Right.
If you are here listening, rejoice. You're receiving. You're open. You're open to get to know who you are in such a level that you know you belong. You're not trying to fit in. I belong. Who do you belong to? You belong to God. You belong to yourself. You belong to this earth. You belong to the family you came from. And yes, sometimes can be a little icky or crunchy. But you know what? Because of this family, you are you. And I rejoice into your existence. I'm grateful you're here. I'm grateful you're here, Steve. I'm grateful you're here, dear listeners. I'm grateful that you allow yourself to be hopeful. Because you're only listening to this because you feel hopeful and something is nourishing in you. And I know what it is because I'm praying for you. You're receiving the love.
Right.
You're receiving and you're open to expand. So let that vibrate inside of you. Just receive it for today. Receive that your ability to respond is making and creating your reality. And if take feedback from what you see. If you don't like what you see, change your response. Change your response. If you can change on your own, raise your hand. Reach out to me. Reach out to Steve. Reach out to a friend.
Kenya, as our time has come to close, it's that accountability that, hey, we can be responsible to our listeners, that, hey, we're going to do 30 minutes of our podcast.
100%. Yes.
And
I'll let the structure to you.
Right.
As I keep growing in my structure and I keep growing on being on time and I keep growing into owning my voice and my gifts, I recognize your strength or keeping us on time, Steve. So thank you for that.
And until next time, God bless and take care.
I love you so much. Mwah.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on Coach Soul. As we wrap up, we want to remind our listeners of a few key points. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content shared here is based on professional opinion but may not apply to everyone's situation. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your mental health care. If you're in a crisis, please seek immediate professional help or contact a crisis hotline. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapist-client relationship. For personal advice, please consult with your licensed mental health professional in your area. Remember, your mental health journey is unique. While we hope this information is helpful, it is crucial to work directly with the qualified personnel for your specific needs. Thank you again for tuning in to Coach Soul, and we'll see you next time.